It's not the footwork. It's not the mechanics. It's not chemistry. It's the hair. It's gotta be the hair. And it goes like this. Put me in the game, I'm ready. I'll leave the team sure and steady with the hair like Jordan. I've got the hair like Jordan. I've got the hair like Jordan. Skull cap so much sweat don't drip down. Hair flowing as I throw touchdowns with the hair like Jordan. I've got the hair like Jordan. I've got the hair like Jordan.
Hello, Bulls fans. Welcome to Last Bull In. UB is coming off a very impressive victory over Kent State. Looking forward, we have the following Tuesday on election night. We have a election night game against Ohio Bobcats. This is not the first time that UB has played on the Tuesday night election night. Last time was in 2008, another magical season where UB upended Miami of Ohio 37-17 when President Barack Obama was elected into office. Well, let's take a look back now. We're going to start off. Let's start looking at that great victory and how UB beat Kent State. UB with a very balanced attack, 6-14, 14-7, scored every quarters, hung 41-21 over Kent State. Great showing by both the offense and the defense. And to get it started, the first score of the game was an 8-yard TD pass from Joe Licata to Alex Newts. For the third time on the season, the extra point kick has failed. Kent State goes up and actually takes a lead. What is this, a lead over Buffalo? Durham with a 7-6 lead. And then it's all about Brandon Oliver. Brandon Oliver with 4 straight rushing TDs, a 5-yard. The 17-yard TD with 8 seconds left to go in the half. My favorite run of Bo in his career at UB, a 38 and a 40-yarder. Bo, what can you say? A magical game. Took the game on his back and single-handedly, he showed Archer and he showed Durham who the best running back in the MAC is. The next was Archer. Archer was relatively held, but he did have a 17-yard TD. We had good with an 18-yard TD pass. And when the game was still in the balance, after Kent scored 2 straight, used the great 30-yard TD catch from Joe Licata. The first downs were 23 for Buffalo, 19 for Kent State. Total yards, 491 for Buffalo, 365. Comparing the two QBs, you had Joe Licata, 285, 2 interceptions. Reardon, still a great day, threw for 260, but 2 interceptions. But mostly, look at Bo Oliver, 31 attempts, 185 yards. That was more than Archer and Durham combined. But what I really loved about this game is Joe Licata and the 9 different receivers that Joe threw to. Newts was the number 1 receiver, 3 receptions, 75 yards, 1 TD. He also had used again with that great touchdown pass. Licata is getting comfortable, the offensive line stepping up, giving him time. And let's take a look at the defensive side of the ball. What more can you say about Khalil Mack? Really made a difference in the game. That interception late in the second quarter while they're going to score. Mack with 1 interception, Lester with an interception, Mack also with 1 sack. But look at the balanced attack. You had Mack, Brim, Johnson, Houston, Skinner, Baker, all making multiple stops. But great job by the defense. Great taking the ball away again. More MAC awards for UB is this week. Brandon Oliver and Khalil Mack take the Offensive and Defensive Player of the Week award from the MAC with their great game against Kent State. This is the second time this season that both Mack and Oliver have won this award. Khalil Mack getting noticed more and more nationwide. Khalil Mack has gone from more being just on the watch list to the semifinalist for the Buckets Award. The award will be presented December 10th. The finalists will be announced November 26th. It'll be a very interesting Thanksgiving for Khalil. And locally, Brandon Oliver this week was named the University of Buffalo Athlete of the Week for October 28th. Rolling UB, keep it going.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to probably 3 of the worst Halloween outfits you've ever seen in your life. Welcome to Last Bull In. It is very difficult, I think, for a lot of us to get excited because we don't have this Saturday game coming up. We got the election night, but I'd like to go around the horn and thank the people who actually did show up tonight. So, Tim, would you please say hi to everybody?
Hey.
Eloquent. Matt.
I don't have much more to say, but hello as well. Happy Halloween.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate, boy, what's the old saying? That he's not the best color man in the business for nothing. Hey, everybody, welcome to Last Berlin. Obviously, we're coming off a great victory here. A game that a lot of people were very nervous for, not sure what's going to happen with Kent State. It's been a long time since UB should have been better to the team, but it could have gone either way. And UB went in and won. We are hoping to have a guest blogger show up tonight, having some technical issues. So if he does show up, we're going to kind of shift gears and we'll kind of pepper his questions on him. But let's actually start. We're going to circle back the Kent game. So, guys, let's have Matt. Let's have a discussion about some of the play call and the up tempo. So, Matt, take it away. Tell us what you thought about the Kent game.
Yeah, I think the most notable part of the Kent game for me was just the quick offensive drives. UB scored 2 touchdowns in their first 3 drives, and I wish Comrade were here to talk about the kind of scripting plays that I know announcers talk about a lot. But the first drive was 5 plays and a punt, or 5 yards and a punt, and after that they scored 2 touchdowns in the first 3 drives, and that kind of getting the lead on Kent on that. We had 2 touchdowns in the first 3 drives. And after that, he kind of forced Kent to play from behind, which given Archer and Durham, anything you can do to take the ball out of the running game helps. After that first drive, it was 6 minutes on 13 plays. After that first touchdown drive, there were 11 drives, and only 4 of them were longer than 5 plays. There was a punt midway through the second quarter, the drive that ended in the missed field goal. And then the last 2 drives were a turnover on downs when we were just trying to kill the clock, and then the end of the game. Everything else was fast and just chewed up chunks of yardage. None of them were more than 5 plays. Only one of them was more than like 2 or 3 minutes, and that was really noticeable. When Jeff Quinn came in a couple years ago, he talked about an up-tempo offense, talked about keeping it moving, and this game was noticeable now. I think kudos go both to the offense for keeping it going and keeping eating up chunks of yards, and also to the defense for being able to keep coming out quickly. Sometimes you see these up-tempo offenses, their defenses can't sustain either, and you end up with a shootout. But that was the thing I noticed, was coming out fast. That was something we identified in the earlier games that UB wasn't doing. 2 touchdowns in their first 3 drives really helped force Kent's hand, which helped force him to play our game. So.
I did like the play call. I like how they put pressure on them both. You're right, Matthew, both offensively and defensively. So Tim, with the best Halloween costume I've ever seen, Tim, give me your breakdown of the game.
This was one where we missed that extra point, and then Kent took the 1-point lead, and I thought it was going to be one of those games. Khalil Mack just kind of showed why he is the guy in the MAC with that interception. That completely deflated Kent. From that point on, Kent was kind of a defeated football team. The tempo Quinn's running is the tempo he's been running for a couple of years, where you come right up to the line, you look over the sideline, you get the play. The difference is Kent just couldn't stop us. None of these were deep throws. None of these were designed to break the bank. But you look at some of those Oliver touchdown runs, it was just a run where Oliver broke it, and that's why those are going 5 plays. It wasn't a wide open, fast-paced offense. Kent just couldn't stop Oliver. Defensively, I'm really concerned about what we're going to do without Adam Redden. I know it was just 1 or 2 plays where Kent was able to almost take advantage of him being out of there. But, going against Ohio, it's going to be a lot different than just having, a freshman quarterback, nursing a sore ankle in a pretty inhospitable game in his own venue. So if we don't get something straightened out, Ohio could really take advantage of that.
To see, Reardon was probably the first good quarterback, MAC-wise, that we've seen. And you're right, I'm nervous to see what's going to happen this week. And if you look at the numbers that stacks up against Ohio versus Buffalo, if you look at the key metrics, there's a lot of things that Ohio's ahead of Buffalo. So this should be an awesome game. So why don't we, before we take a look at the Ohio State game, let's go around the MAC. Let's talk about the teams that we have left. So looking at my schedule here, we've got Ohio, Toledo, Miami, and Bowling Green. So I think we all agree here, guys, if I'm wrong here, but we believe that Miami, Ohio should be an easy win. So we're really talking about Ohio, Toledo, and Bowling Green. So Tim, why don't you start off with tell me one of these teams, break them down. Where are they after the season, and what do you see about UB when they compete against them?
I looked at obviously the Ohio Miami games, their next opponent, and you saw out of Miami what they've been doing all year. They have no offensive line. Their blocking is terrible, and what that leads to is about I think that on the season they're averaging like 1 or 2 yards per carry in MAC play. They're giving up sacks at just an insane clip. So I looked at Miami to see just kind of what's going to happen the week before the Bowling Green game. Could they possibly be a trap team? And I don't see it. They got some skill at the wideouts and quarterback positions. More the court. I think Boucher is a much better quarterback than he's showing, but he has no one blocking in front of him. It reminds me a lot of what you saw with Jerry Davis in 2000 in the year we can't talk about, where he's just always running for his life.
Matt, you got to unmute yourself. Tell me what MAC game did you see, and what are you looking at?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch the Bowling Green game, but I wanted to get a chance to talk about Bowling Green. We kind of all pegged it at the beginning of the year as, let's hope that Bowling Green game in the Ralph comes down to, let's hope that means the MAC East. And I think a lot of people are starting to get really excited about that game. Bowling Green is they're 3-1 in the MAC. They're a game behind us, thanks to their Toledo loss. BR Jacker on UB Fan posted an attempt to break down the tie-breaking situation. I think it's a week too early at least to start to think about that. There's still 4 MAC games left. It's half the conference schedule. But Bowling Green, the thing that really strikes me about them is Matt Johnson he's not an upper tier MAC quarterback. He's not Wenning, he's not Lynch, he's not Tettleton. But I think he's better than Colin Reardon. I think, as much as we said Reardon, is a freshman who's got his head on straight and he's going to be a threat for a couple of years, Johnson is a guy who really can sling it. And Bowling Green has 8 different players with 10 receptions, and they got another guy at 8. And then they have 5 guys with 24-plus carries. They really have a diverse, they get the offense around, they move the ball. By comparison, Buffalo only has 4 guys with 10 receptions, and then one of them is Campbell, and then Bo has 9. So when we play Bowling Green, we're going to see an offense that really moves the ball around, keeps legs fresh, and there's that. And then I also I didn't watch the Bowling Green Toledo game, but I wanted to point something out of that. It looks, Toledo had that late drive from Terrence Owens to go up 28-25, win the game. Looks like a nice, close, hard-fought rivalry game. But when you look closer, Toledo went up 21-0 early, and Bowling Green just came out flat. And then Bowling Green turned around and scored 25 straight points before Terrence Owens did his magic on that last-minute drive. So I think that Toledo game will be going into the Bowling Green game, be able to say, well, here's how Buffalo did against Toledo, here's how Bowling Green did against Toledo. But 21 straight points and then 25 straight points on the other side is pretty atypical. So I wonder how much we can learn from the Toledo Bowling Green game, other than that teams play differently in rivalry games and it's just a different situation.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see if Buffalo pulls out a victory over Ohio, and then obviously they beat Miami of Ohio. And if you could see Buffalo beat Toledo or at least give them a great game, I would love to see a big crowd and a big audience at Ralph. Sorry, it is Ralph Wilson. I keep on saying Rich Stadium, but Ralph Wilson Stadium. Interesting thing, I was looking actually see some video highlights to be able to put into this video, and I went on WKBW, and they said the top trending things in the sports, and UB bowl eligible was the #1. Vanek trade was #2, and I thought that was interesting that people in Buffalo are starting to. Now that the wins are piling up, you're bringing the people back, and it's if you win, they will come. So, is there any other topics, Matt or Tim wanted to kind of talk about? I want to talk about 2 awesome plays. I mean, it comes down to Bo's run, which was, and Tim, you made a great article on that. That was sweet. That was so cool. And then Max played that interception that that turned the tide. Let me go on my soapbox here because Conrad's not here, so I'll take his time. I really think the people are saying, well, it's the D, it's not Mac. Okay, I get that. It is a team sport, but Mac is doing things that disrupts plays. That he's doing special things that puts the other players in position to succeed. which again, I hope there's not a huge drop-off next year, but I don't think that's the case. I think these players are growing underneath Mac, making a difference, and people trying to game plan around him. I love what Reardon said. Reardon said, there's no way I thought Mac was going to be able to get that ball and then to stick his mid out there and make that interception. I was disappointed. Khalil, next time, listen, don't let me down again. If you're going to make an interception, you got to take that back for an interception. For you getting caught behind, pretty disappointing. I really thought you should take him back and score it. Matt, Tim, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, to be fair, it was Dree Archer that caught him from behind, wasn't it?
It was
Rayon Durham.
Durham.
Reardon forced him to change
Durham, okay,
projection in Durham, and Durham caught him. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone had asked earlier, one of the guest bloggers, way earlier in the season, what we thought about Mac, what was the hitch in this game. And back then, I looked at previous years and I said, well, he's not great in pass coverage. I don't like how much Tepper drops him back in passes. He's okay, but it's not his strength. And he has turned that around this year, and it just goes to show kind of the effort he has put into developing himself as a player, from a guy that no FBS school wanted to a guy who's probably going to go top 10 in the NFL draft. He is amazing now at reading those plays. That catch was phenomenal, and like I say, he has 3 picks this year. 2 were taken back for touchdowns, and he outran a lot of fast people on those 2. So, he really is now the complete linebacker. I don't know that there may be 1 or 2 more guys that can say they are as complete as he is right now in college football. But it's sketchy. He may be the second. He may be the first or second linebacker to go.
The only problem, Tim, is I agree with you. Buffalo doesn't have the ability and has never been there before to create the hype machine on Mac like you could, like a Stanford, UCLA could do. And unfortunately, you're seeing a lot of these teams are kind of creating the hype machine where really other than be on UB's not doing anything for him. Not that it's a bad thing. It's just UB just hasn't done that before. How about Tim? Go ahead.
I'm going to say that might matter for the awards, but that's not going to matter in the NFL draft.
Agree.
Yeah, that may keep him from getting the Baird Neck or from getting to New York for that. But when it comes to the NFL draft, they don't care. And one more thing, I just wanted to carry on the point you said about the defensive fall off next year. I was sure Colby Way was going to struggle this year with Stephen Means being gone, and he's only gotten better. Now we are losing a lot of talent. I really believe 10 wins can happen this year. Right? If you had asked me that after Stony Brook, I would have laughed. But will it happen? I don't know, but it can happen. They're there. I don't think that's going to be possible next year with everything we're losing. But I don't think it has to be a dumpster fire. To your point, Tig. These guys are coming up under Mac, not just winning because of them.
Tim, I'll give you all the credit in the world. You're the one who I have always bemoaned the fact of we're going to have so much of a excess and a vacuum of talent leaving, and you're the one who says, hey, we've got a line, we've got Licata. I've always questioned about wide receiver and defense. And Tim, to your credit, you're the one who've been talking about the last year and a half, talking about there's going to be enough there. Again, some of the recruits coming in, there's a lot of things going. So Quinn is making me shut my mouth, which, listen, I'm happy to shut my mouth on Quinn, which is a great thing. Again, after 3 years of just being so frustrated, I'm glad I've been able to been proven wrong. Happy to say I was wrong so far. Again, I'll give Quinn 3-4 more weeks. I'll also give Quinn next year before I can really grade him out. But again, I'll let the last years pass, and also the year that won't be mentioned. I'll let that be. I'll let him throw that out. Hey Matt, tell me about that Bo Oliver run. How awesome was that?
Oh, you're gonna make me talk about the Bo Oliver run. The Bo Oliver run.
No, talk about awesome. Mac. Talk about whatever you want.
I wanted to talk about Mac's other interception,
please.
He isn't quite good enough to force the off balance throw and then run and catch the ball himself. But I think that play was just as impressive as the interception that he actually caught. His closing speed on Reardon when he jumped up and forced that absolute duck of a throw was just incredible. I haven't rewatched the play to see what he did after the snap, but there was 10, 12, 15 yards of space between him and Reardon when he started to go. And then, he hit Reardon, and he had closed so quickly that it wasn't a roughing the passer. It wasn't a late hit call. And, that throw was as bad an interception as I've ever seen. And I remember a game where Mark Sanchez threw 5 interceptions against the Bills a couple of years ago. And I can't believe how wide open and as much of a layup that was for, I think it was Leicester who snagged it. I'm not certain off the top of my head.
It was. It was Leicester.
Oh, good. All right.
Mhm.
And I think what just was great about that was Mac's closing speed on that was just unreal. You know, when he had that pick six against Ohio State, I was like, boy, he runs, and I know he's fast. I know the guys chasing him are fast, but he doesn't run, he doesn't look fast when he runs. And it was just incredible to watch him close. And of course, by now I know how fast he is. We've seen it a couple times. That was great. The other thing I just wanted to catch, since it came up in your flow of things you were worried about, is I think the wide receivers are going to be okay next year. I kind of have been beating the Ron Willoughby drum for 2 weeks now. But Willoughby is good. Hughes got a touchdown catch this week. That's the nice thing of, some of these blowout wins is, getting a chance to get some snaps for these younger guys. It's a nice thing about bowl eligibility is if we do get an invite, we get another month of practice. So I'm looking forward to see those guys keep getting snaps. I have perhaps an optimism, but I have confidence in the young wide receivers coming in this year after Leah Newts go.
And another player I think is making some great strides, and I hope the kid has not been picked on as I've been calling Betsy. I hope Mr. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Me?
I can.
Oh, good. Mr. Ross. Yeah, I hope they haven't been calling him Betsy. That's a terrible nickname, but Mr. Ross, I like that he's been catching some balls, and Matt, you've been talking about Willoughby all year. Now, we've got something. We've had a guest blogger who, well, this is kind of a quasi guest. I don't even know how. This is kind of incestuous. I don't know what the hell to do. So he writes for
These are divided loyalties.
Yeah.
This is Shakespearean in just how divided he is right now.
This is the second week in a row. Like I picked a fight last week with the BC Bulls or the BC guys, and Matt Matt got his loyalties are divided. He picked BC. That's fine. I know where you're at.
When did I pick BC?
Yeah, no, you did. Hey, Matt, welcome. Matt is going to be now. Matt, tell us about yourself. Tell me your background.
Mike. You're talking to
Mike.
Mike.
I'm sorry, Mike. Sorry, Mike. Tell us about your background. You've been writing here so introduce yourself and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
First off, can you guys see me okay? Okay, I'm just making sure. This whole technology stuff is tough.
The light's right behind you, but yeah.
I'll try to dim that out a little bit. Basically, I'm from Buffalo. Growing up, UB fan. Had season tickets in high school. Basically, the Turner Gill years. So remember the team when they were 2-10. Followed them all the way, and then came college decision time. I wanted to go for journalism. Unfortunately, UB didn't really have a journalism department, so it forced me to look other places, and it ended up taking me to enemy ground in Ohio. So 4 years later, now I'm a split loyalty, and I hate this game more than any game on the schedule. It's horrible for me. I hate it. Ohio fans make fun of UB, and I get mad at them, and then UB fans make fun of Ohio, and for good reason. I mean, so it sucks for me. I was a UB fan during the horrible basketball championship game, so I've been on both sides of it, so I know what it feels like.
Now, Mike, I could understand if you said you went to Syracuse for journalism. I can't understand Athens. I don't get that. So,
hey, Ohio, when I was looking up the Twitter post this week, all sorts of media in Athens.
Yeah,
Ohio does have a really good media program. Journalism.
Yeah, I did.
Here comes the old joke. Well, what else do you do in that town?
Well, if you've been there, there's a lot of drinking, and that's about it.
I got a first-hand story about being an 18-year-old person who was let in the bar, playing hockey for UB. We're playing again then, and they gave me a wristband, and I'm at the bar thinking, wow, that was way too easy. And if anyone knows me, I'm pushing 5'9". My ID says I was 6'4", red hair, Scott Miller, and all of a sudden some guy taps me on the shoulder and says, "You're coming with me." So I spent a night in the clink, most of the hockey games. So I'm not a fan. I can't wait for UB to kick the living tar out of Ohio. Let's get this back on track. The personal stories, no one wants to hear my stories. We're going to talk about, again, this upcoming game. This is Kent was a big game. this is a game at a whole different level. This is a really, if you look at the key metrics, Ohio's got some better metrics than UB. So you're talking about two teams who are really evenly matched up. So Tim, can you start ask the first question of our torn loyalties here?
Yeah, I mean, you can't come a guest blogger because he blogs for us. But all right, so here's my question, and it's going to go around Ohio's defensive line, and are they going to be able to slow down Oliver, and how much are they going to be able? I don't know the running backs they face this year too well.
The funny thing about their defensive line is it really is hit or miss. It seems like one week they'll have a good game, and then the next week it's just awful. Against Central Michigan, they kind of just got ran all over. But then against Miami, Ohio, they shut them down. Of course, Miami, Ohio can't run against anybody. But I don't think they'll be able to shut down Oliver. I think you're looking at a game where Oliver should have 150-plus yards if they keep feeding him the ball. It's one of those things where you just don't know. They haven't done well against the good teams, at least stopping the run, but they haven't really played a million great rushing attacks, so it's hard. I think UB is going to get the yardage, though.
Okay, I agree too. After seeing what Mac did last week, he's the best. To me, he's the best back in the MAC. Bo is. So, Matt, your question for Mike.
Yeah, I actually want to ask about the other side of the ball. Blankenship just recently had 100 yards. It might have been against EMU. It might have been the game before, and it was like their first 100-yard game since sometime last year, whether it was the bowl or earlier. And so I know he had more than 100 against Miami as well. What changed? What clicked? Why did Ohio finally break that drought? What can we expect to see out of the running game next Tuesday?
Well, he finally broke the drought against Miami, and I think that's the main reason he was playing Miami. The running game's been awful this year. They really don't have anything close to a running attack. You'll look at his numbers, 4.7 yards per carry, but I believe, I don't know offhand, but I think he had 160-plus yards against the Redhawks this past week, and before that, really nothing. Same with Boykin, who's going to get a lot of carries too. They're more of a team that they're going to stick to the run no matter what, just because it's the Frank Soltz way. They use the run to open the play action later, but the running attack really shouldn't be able to do much against at least UB's front line and linebackers. It's one of those things where they just stay committed to it, but it really hasn't been effective at all.
And that's interesting to say that they're going to be committed to the run. I think if you're going to beat UB's team, you're going to beat them through the air. Obviously, our strength is defensive line, then linebackers, and then the secondary is. I think our secondary has benefited from the pass rush and the linebackers and taking away some of the underneath routes. So it's interesting that you say that. So interesting. So
I think it's easy to focus, Mike, on Ohio's offense. Tettleton's very, very good. People know Blankenship's name. Foster's having a great season. And I know the D-line is, up and down, as you just said. They've got a ton of sacks. But in the secondary, who's going to, what's the prognosis for Newts? Who's going to cover Newts? Who's going to be left to cover Lee? Do they have anybody who can cover kind of Mason Schreck, the bigger guy? I want to know about the secondary a bit.
Gotta go on this link here. Their secondary, it's decent. The defense as a whole, it's pretty decent. It's just it's really one of those things where they're either hit or miss. You look at games against North Texas, Louisville, and Marshall, where they're allowing 49 points to Louisville, then 21 to North Texas, but they let them kind of pass all over them at times. And then Marshall, they're going to pass. But then you look at other teams. Akron had 3 points. Austin Peay, even though that's probably the worst team I've ever seen play against a D1 team, shutout. And then, I don't know. They have Xavier Hughes, who's decent, and they have a couple good guys back there, but I don't think they have anybody that can stop Newts. That's just my opinion. I can't really tell you the standouts. They really don't have any standouts really back there, but it's really a unit where it depends on the day with them. And I'm sorry for being so general. It's just
no. This is encouraging. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
like the numbers, like you look at the numbers, you see 21.8 points he got, and I guess you look at that and you think really good defense, but on paper, I think UB has a better defense. It's just one of those things where they just, I guess, have better numbers than what I think of them, and maybe I'm too critical because I went to Ohio, but I don't know. I think there's some weaknesses back there that they can exploit.
Is there anybody really enjoying watching Mike squirm between two alliances here and being bored? Does anybody enjoy this more than saying, it's you have? I love the pressure we put you in. Tim, you got a question now? Hey, Mike, I'll ask you a question. Okay. This is an easy question.
You guys kind of fading on me, so I don't know if my internet connection's going.
Sorry, Tim, you go ahead.
Okay, you guys see me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right, here's my question in Ohio. Ohio has had a really good run the past few years, but college football, even for the powerful teams, is kind of an up and down thing. How much longer are they going to be riding until they hit something of a rebuilding phase again?
That's an interesting question, and honestly, my approach with them is as long as they have Frank Solich as head coach, they're going to be doing pretty well. They're a team that has a strategy in place, and it's an effective strategy. They redshirt guys, they build guys, and when finally most of the time when they're starting, they're juniors and seniors. You have these 21, 22-year-old guys, and I think the development that they have at Ohio is the main reason why they're successful. You look at Tettleton, everybody knows how he started as a sophomore, but that was really his third year. He redshirted his sophomore year. And then they have a guy, Darius Vick, who right now is a backup quarterback, but if he takes over next year, he's a guy that's already playing in games. They'll give him 2 or 3 series a game, and he looks like he's going to be somebody solid. So it's one of those things where I think Solich just has the system in place where guys are ready by the time they come in as juniors and seniors, and I really don't see a drop-off coming soon, but that's really just because of what I think Solich does as a head coach and his staff being in place for, I guess, close to 9 years now. Are they going to be a MAC contender every year? Probably not, but it's hard to see them having losing seasons, at least in the near future, especially with their cupcake schedule that they seem to play every year. So
let's give you've had a couple questions here. Let's give you a really easy question, super easy. And Mike, if you want to stay the rest of the counter insider stuff, if you want to stay on, that's great. So Mike, what's the final score going to be?
This is tough, and I should have thought about this. Can it be a tie? Shit.
Hey, we got an S-bomb. Sweet.
Oh, we got him. We got him.
Do you want to wait till you're so people that tease them so they can read your article later this week?
I'll just say it. My Ohio people are gonna hate me. I'm gonna say 27-24 UB, just because when I see UB, I think they're the more talented team. And Ohio people are killing me. I know you guys check the rival blog sites and everything like that, and I've been sticking up for UB the whole week, and I've been getting killed by some people. But it's when you have Khalil Mack on defense and you have that D line that UB has, it's intimidating. I don't see how Ohio's how they're gonna be effective on offense, especially since this is an Ohio team that basically got shut down for 3 quarters against Central Michigan. So I don't know. I think UB is gonna win a squeaker, especially being at home. But really, it could go either way, in my opinion.
Yeah, way to finish strong there, Mike. It can go either way. Hey, Mike, would you rather be staying on your high ground, pick UB, and then when they win, you can go back and talk trash? So, what's that score again, Mike? What did you have? I missed it. You broke out. What was the score again, Mike?
I had UB 27-24.
Mike, a little louder.
Wait,
I can't hear you.
who's gonna win?
Oh, stop this.
Technology,
Hey.
Mike. I can't hear you, Mike. Technology, a little louder, please.
27-24 UB. But you guys got to understand, I'm in the situation. Obviously, I'm polling.
We don't have to understand anything.
I'm polling for Ohio. But if UB was to win, I can't say that I would be super upset. I mean, if UB wins, I'm pulling for them to win the rest of the season, go 10-2, whatever it is, 12-2. I mean, it's a great story, and obviously, being in the press box, knowing all those guys, I mean, you want to pull for them. You want them to be happy. I mean, they'll all say that they're unbiased, but they're all, I mean, a guy like DeCesare and Aaron Mansfield, they're all happy that UB is winning. I mean, it's a good story. It's been 5 years, so, I mean, this is fun.
I don't know if they're happy with their winning. I think they sell more papers, but no, I think it's great that they're winning. But hey, Mike, we appreciate you coming on. Mike, if you listen, you got to take that Ohio hat that you just had on, friggin' Homer. If you want to stay on for the rest, we're gonna kind of break down the Ohio UB game. So if you'd like to stay on, by all means, please. Now that you figure out technology, so we're gonna switch gears here. We're gonna start talking about how is UB gonna win this game. So, Mike, you got to be a homer here, so we'll talk about that.
Okay,
Tim or Matt, who wants to jump on first? Who wants to talk about what UB needs to do, what key aspect to win this game? Anybody want to jump on that?
I'll start.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Go on, Matt.
Oh, okay. I was on Bobcat Attack yesterday, after I got pointed that way by UB fan, and they were really talking up their, I think last week I talked about UB's sacks and sacks against numbers. And I didn't verify them somewhere other than Bobcat Attack, so maybe I'm totally off. But they were talking up their sacks and sacks against numbers, and I think they may have passed us in the MAC for total sacks. And UB's or Ohio's in the trenches is just real strong in passing situations. And it's interesting to hear, Mike, you talk about just not being sure and just eye test. Buffalo looks better, because looking at the numbers, I haven't really seen Ohio and focused on their D line. I've mostly been focusing on their offense, but I think Ohio has proven they can get after a passer, and now guys have run all over them. Central Michigan's guy Lavalley, however, ran for 180-ish. Bronson Hill, I said last week, had an easier time against Ohio than he did against us. He ended up running for 250. But against the pass, I'm worried that Ohio will be able to really pressure the newbie Licata, and the difference could be, the sophomore Licata versus the experienced Tettleton. And so I'm looking for our offensive line to be able to provide some time, and also for the play selection to give Licata some easier outs. He's got to be brimming with confidence right now with 6 straight wins. But I also want earlier in the game, some quick stuff to Newts and Lee, slants and bubble screens and things, just to get Licata in the rhythm of throwing quick, making completions, and saying, yeah, like, I do have to make a decision quicker, but I know what I'm doing. And so far this year, I've generally been pretty pleased with Licata's decision making, so I'm not too fatalistic about it. But I do think the key is going to be finding time for Licata and holding Ohio's D-line in passing situations.
Thanks, man. And I thought Licata did a great job last week. I mean, you'll see when the video gets edited tomorrow, I talk about how he found 9 different receivers, and that was pretty impressive for me. The one thing I think about Licata that's great is just not throwing interceptions. That's so I've questioned his arm strength. Maybe after the new hits, I circle back to that. But I think Licata's done a great job and proved to me that he's ready. Tim.
I'm going to say it's going to be how well our secondary avoids overplaying the play-action pass. It is something Ohio does really well. They have very good running back. They have a very, very good quarterback. And he's not just good throwing the ball. His fundamentals in the play-action and hiding the ball and selling the look is really good. So if it's those situations where they throw that play-action at us and a corner bites on it too hard, that's 6 points, right? That's how they make their big passing plays, is sucking you in on those. So it's going to be disciplined in the secondary, and that's what we're really going to need to hold up against Ohio.
I agree. I think the secondary they've benefited again from a great pass rush, and again, like Matt, you talked about that Lester interception. That was, a lot of these picks that the secondary's got has been gifts for them. So, Mike, take the Ohio hat off. How does UB, and your friends are going to see this. So, how does UB win this game, or why does UB win this game?
I think UB wins this game if they shut down Tyler Tettleton. I think that's the biggest key for me, at least. And also one update to that earlier point. It is the numbers with Ohio sack numbers. They are true, but one of their key D linemen, I think Ty Brands is
Yeah.
injured. So
I wondered how recently that injury was.
I think it was 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago
Okay.
or something. It was before the Miami game.
So pretty
But
pretty recent.
yeah, so that's like 7 their sacks right there. So that's a pretty key number. But I think UB has to stop Tettleton. Tettleton, if he goes off, it's going to be tough for UB. It's a game where I know that UB is they're going to score points probably in the 20s at least against Ohio. But Tettleton has the ability, if he has a big game, to get Ohio into the high 30s and 40s. In a game like that, I don't think UB can keep up with an Ohio. So it's really stopping him and Dante Foster. They've really had a connection the last couple games, and Foster's had 3 touchdowns in the first half alone against Miami. So if you can shut down that connection, I think you're looking good. But Tettleton's scary. He doesn't throw interceptions, and he has over 2,000 yards in 8 games. So he's quite a threat at quarterback.
Good pedigree as well. So good. Anybody else want to discuss any other key matchups on this game? Matt, Tim, Mike, anything else that really you think needs to be discussed on this game?
Mike, I wanted to ask, Redden is kind of like the drop linebacker. Who against Ohio, which Ohio receiver or tight end would he most likely have played against? Because to me, that's the biggest injury UB has right now.
You said Redden right there?
Yeah, Redden's out. If Redden were in and playing that drop linebacker role, where do you think where in the pecking order is he watching Ohio in the passing game?
Well, they have obviously we wouldn't cover a guy like Foster. That would be a number 1 corner. Cochran would be a deep guy. Ohio's one of those teams that really does focus on just a few guys passing to. Maybe a Matt Waters, who's the second leading receiver as far as receptions, but third in yardage. Or a Troy Hill, who's a pretty athletic tight end that they have. I couldn't see him on Cochran or Foster just for the fact that Cochran seems like every time he averages 22 yards per catch, and he's going to go deep almost every route. And then Foster, he's their possession guy. So probably a guy like Matt Waters or Troy Hill would be who he would face if he was playing.
Matt? Any other questions?
Since we brought that up, we've been talking about, it looks like last week Okazi Alozi stepped in, into that Redden spot. And I don't really know quite if they're going to go to him again this week, if, Tepper will move people around or if somebody else will step in better, and Alozi just went in last week. And this is less to the OU game, but just more talk on the Redden injury. I think that's going to be, obviously Redden has been a huge player for us. It's easy to point his injury out as something big. And I think we may see more open space in the middle of the field. A couple weeks ago we talked about that's where UB's, weakness is in the secondary, is kind of leaving those intermediate routes open. And I think that first pass interference penalty on Alozi, we all said in the thread, like, he's got to take that. Like, you can't just let him catch the ball, and it worked out. I think that was the drive that ended up with the Mack interception and the quick points in the other direction. But one of the replays was from the offensive backfield, and you saw Alozi rush up to defend the QB run and prepare for that. And then as soon as he realized that the QB wasn't going to run, he had to turn down and he had to make up all that ground. And I don't know quite if that was always Redden's role or if Redden was just a better recognition. But I think that's something we might have to look for, is not just that Redden was a great player, senior, experience with all these physical gifts, but I don't know quite how much someone's going to be able to step into the mental demands of being that flex position that will sometimes need to step up and, hit the quarterback and blitz throw, and how much they'll need to step back. So my concern is, how is the scheme going to have to adjust for maybe not having someone who can make those decisions in a split second? Will there be more safety for that aspect of an opposing offense, and will it leave a gap somewhere else? That's just open for talk. I don't really have a point.
No, that's good. Does anybody have any updates on, obviously, Way, or it sounds like Redden's, he's out. I do not see him playing against Ohio, but any updates on Way or Bean?
Yeah, Coach said
Way
today.
is questionable. Bean is also questionable, but Way was almost to go last week, so I'd imagine Way will be there. I don't know about Bean though. Maybe Mike knows.
From the press conference today, Coach made it sound like both should be able to go for the game on Tuesday. He said that they're both day to day, but he made it sound positive on both of them. Redden though, he didn't give a time frame on Redden, but it did not sound good on Redden. It sounds like this is at least multiple weeks. It doesn't sound like anytime soon, at least. I saw him.
Bob D on Reddit.
Redden was on I don't know what those are called, but those walking things. Like he obviously wasn't walking under his own power today, so it didn't look good from his perspective.
Yeah.
Crutches?
Bob D has tweeted that Redden that UB should be hoping for a knee sprain, which I'm not quite sure which play Redden got lost on. I just saw the picture of the crutches, but if you're hoping for a knee sprain, you're looking at 4 weeks. I think that's what EJ Manuel has, and they gave him 5 to 7, something like that.
Yeah, it would seem like it'd be the rest of the regular season at least, or something around that. But that's just me guessing. Coach really was tight-lipped on what he actually has injury-wise.
It was nice to see Newts back. Obviously, we weren't sure how Newts was going to react, but 3 catches, 75 yards, average 25 with a touchdown, back on the touchdown train. So it was great to see Newts back. Other than Carlson, seems like the offensive side of the ball is pretty healthy. I also thought, we missed Carlson. He was a hell of a player, but you saw some guys step up, and that offensive line did a nice job for Joe. Again, Joe not sacked and no interceptions. He had time to throw the ball.
There's a lot of depth there on that line, and it's really been something I've been watching since Quinn first came in, and we had all of 6 serviceable offensive linemen, and to see it be able to absorb losing someone like Carlson, who was kind of a monster on that line, and still perform against Kent, who is far better than 2 wins this year. It just goes to say that maybe Quinn's learning curve is getting there, and he's been really good at developing players all these years.
Perfect. Well, let's shift gears. It's coming up on 45 minutes here. So before Mike, you guys start thinking the last thing, Mike, we end, which I'm assuming, Mike, you've watched every week of these, probably 5 or 6 times, but we all end out with a shout out. So Mike, get ready. Something you can talk about anything other than Miami.
Brewpeg yet?
We were getting there. We're getting there.
Brewpeg.
I'm trying to give Mike some time to kind of get the shout outs. We're going to Brewpeg. I'm trying to prep him. But the next thing we're going to do is the Brewpeg. We've already heard Mike's absolutely definitive call, UB27, his school that he overpaid for that education, 24. So, Tim, Matt, you jump in. I also want to know what the score is going to be and how they're going to score.
It keeps working. 24-21 Buffalo. Newts is going to open up the scoring with a long pass from Licata right off the bat. Blankenship's going to run for 2. There will be a pass by Tettleton. O will tie the game in the last quarter on a run, and Clark's going to win it in the first overtime before Mack intercepts on Ohio's drive.
Well, there's way to go on a limb. Licata to Newts first TD. Way to go on a limb there. That's nice.
Keeps working.
It keeps working. Yeah. And Tim, I swear, if I see a beer in your hand this weekend during the game, or Tuesday, I'm coming out to find you. Whatever
He
works.
promised to cover me
Matt?
against beer. I told her. She said she won't let me have any, so don't worry about it.
Chat, what are you doing?
Oh.
Hey, first of all, Mike, you can put it on mute so we don't have to hear your mom yelling at you. We also don't ever put that down, so we focus in on Ohio. Don't ever do that again.
Hey, is that better right there?
I think I preferred the EMU guy who fell asleep.
Matt, tell us why UB is going to crush the hell out of that Ohio thing we just saw, and what's the final score going to be?
Okay, well, I really, really wanted to call this game in the 30s for both teams. Last week when I think his name was Sean from Kent State, he said in the 30s, I said I don't feel that. I don't think Kent gets in the 30s. And I really wanted this week to just say Tettleton's going to air it out and UB's going to try to slow the game down. But it's the first for both teams. It's the first kind of top of the MAC defense they've played, and we talked about Ohio's defense already. But Ohio's played Miami, CMU, EMU, and it's kind of like none of those guys do I think about when I think of MAC defenses. So I've got UB for 31 points. And while I'd love for it to be a crushing win, I've got Ohio for 27.
Are you ready or not?
I've got, like I said before, I think early momentum is going to matter a lot. I'm looking for some play calling. Hopefully we see, I would love. I'm also going to go with the TD to Newts for the first score for Buffalo. It works. It's good. I think that we'll get a TD to Newts. There will be a Blankenship touchdown. It'll be 7-7 in the middle of the second quarter. I think UB is going to get a defensive TD out of Najee Johnson. Don't ask me how, but we'll just say Najee Johnson defensive TD. I think ultimately, I'm going to keep beating this third quarter drum. I think UB will trail in the second half for the first time in a long time, since I believe Baylor was the last time we trailed in the second half. I think UB will trail in the second half, but I love this third quarter, take control of things, and we'll do that again. I've got UB 31-27. The other scores from UB will be a field goal from Clark. I've got Bo for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. And we'll say that Tettleton to Foster gets 2 touchdowns themselves, and a couple field goals. So Ohio touchdowns from Blankenship, Tettleton to Foster times 2, and a field goal from Ohio. And then for Buffalo, Bo for 2, Najee Johnson for 1, and Alex Newts for 1, and then a field goal from Patrick Clark. And 31-27 UB.
Hey, Mike, go to the top of your screen and unmute yourself, Mike, if you could. Should be right there. Put on the screen.
I think I got it.
Good. Hey, Mike, is your mom making meatloaf?
Actually, it's my sister turned 21 minutes ago, so
Cool.
she just came down and she made me take a shot. So that's what was going on.
Well, now you might be more articulate.
What
Good.
you doing? She turned 21.
What?
And she's home. 21 and she's home. Okay.
Well, she just got off work. She got kind of screwed on her birthday, but
Gotcha.
whatever.
Well, that's our brew peg, and we're going to shift gears now, and we're going to end this out with our shout-outs. So, Mike, we'll start out with the other 2 guys. You go last. It could be about anything other than Ohio. It doesn't even have to be about football. Tim, Matt, who would like to start?
I got 2 shout-outs today. One here in Washington, D.C. We had this past Sunday was the Marine Corps Marathon. I just want to shout out to all those marathon runners out there. I ran in high school, and I used to entertain ideas of running a marathon, and it's kind of off my radar now. One of my roommates ran the marathon, finished in 5 hours and 21 minutes. We're all very excited for her. And I just, running a marathon is an incredible thing. It's always great to see that. It's a great community building thing for a city. My other shout out is women's basketball doesn't get their UB women's basketball doesn't officially start their season until November 8th, same day as the men play Texas A&M. But they did play their exhibition today against Mansfield, who kind of team you'd expect to play an exhibition against. But they won 94-50. It's always nice to see 94 points in any game, especially with the ladies. They're looking like a pretty spread out team this year. They started slow in Coach Jack's first season. I'll have the women's preview up on the site within the next 2 days. But they started slow in Coach Jack's first season, but went 8-8 in MAC play, so they're definitely on the upward swing. They got Mackenzie Losing, is only a sophomore. She was named the Big 4 Player of the Year, preseason Player of the Year by the Buffalo News Crew. And we're just looking for good things. A 94-50 win against any opponent is always nice to see. So looking up for the women's basketball team.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate those shout-outs. So marathon and basketball, 2 things that usually don't get discussed. I appreciate you expanding my knowledge. So I get tired driving 26 miles. I can't imagine running it. Tim, talk to me about what's on your mind.
I'm going to go with just the athletic department as a whole for some of the promotions they've been doing this year. They've apparently been reaching out to a lot of businesses to the alumni fold for basketball. Apparently, they have already surpassed their season ticket sales for last year. So all they need to do now is go on that court and win. A lot of people have been predicting UB to be 5th in the MAC East. The MAC coaches, however, are looking at Buffalo at being 2nd. So good basketball this season, plus butts in the seats, can only mean better things for this year and going forward.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. Mike, what's on your mind other than Ohio?
He actually just stole some of my shout-out, but I was going to have a shout-out to Danny White and to the UB men's basketball team. I think White got a lot of criticism before football season started because of some of his moves, extending Quinn and then firing Witherspoon. And I really thought that a lot of the criticism was undeserved. And it was a guy that was trying to make big moves and trying to actually bring some change to UB, which I thought was needed. And if you want to move up, and I think that now we're starting to see some of the success and some of the stuff that comes with thinking bigger, larger crowds, and just an overall excitement that wasn't here. And then the other shout out was the UB men's basketball team. I think joining that, what you were saying, somehow they were picked 5th by ESPN. That seems like a joke to me. This team should be no worse than 2nd or 3rd in the MAC East. And then if you look at the MAC as a whole, they should be a top 4 or 5 team. So just a shout out to them. I think they're a 21 team. It should be exciting this year.
Pretty cool. So my shout out's going to be I actually had to go, but my son does a little he's 2, but he does a little gymnastics type of thing. So we drive by the stadium and just seeing all the things that they've done, the banners, the tents, the things they've done good. It's nice for UB and amazing. We actually drove through real quick, and my days you never wore UB gear, but to see a lot of kids now wearing UB hats and shirts and jackets and stickers. So it's a good time to be a UB fan after not being fun to be a UB fan for a long time. So that's the Halloween edition, and it got kind of spooky today. So that was interesting. We miss you, Conrad. Thanks for jumping on. I appreciate that. But everybody have a safe Halloween. Don't eat too much candy. Matt, can you please say goodbye to everybody?
I can do that. Stay safe, everybody. Happy Halloween. You got extra time to get extra ready for Ohio on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.
Hey, Matt, out of curiosity, what was your costume?
I spent $12 at a thrift store on a bad lumberjack costume. I got flannel.
He dressed as a Minnesotan.
I was thinking about that. I thought about throwing some shade your way, but
if you would have called yourself Tim, that would have been awesome. You said, "I'm coming as Tim."
I don't have enough facial hair to do that.
You could have painted it on.
It would take me 3 weeks.
Sharpies work well.
So, but I spent $12 at a thrift shop on 2 shirts and a hat, and did the lumberjack thing. So.
Good for you, Mike. Why don't you say goodnight to all your fans out there?
Good night to everybody. Hope you put up with me for being an Ohio fan. Just understand it's for one game, and then after that one game, I'll be back supporting the blue and white. Just put up with me no matter what. And please don't hate me because I like Ohio.
Hey, Mike, is your sister there? Let's say happy birthday to your sister. Can you put her on?
She just left a little while ago. She's probably going to sleep now.
21st birthday going to sleep. What's wrong with these kids?
Hey, she gets a good dinner tomorrow and going out tomorrow, so.
All right.
She'll be spoiled tomorrow.
When UB wins, Mike, you will be pestered for the rest of your life, just to let you know.
Okay.
So your natural-born life. Good. Tim, let's say goodnight to everybody.
Hey, this is for the students. When UB played against Miami in 2008, there were 16,000 people in the stadium. We should be able to beat that. It's the week after Halloween. Wash the beer stains off your costumes. Dress up at the stadium. Make a day of it. Have fun. And see you guys next week.
Good. Good night, everybody. Have a great Halloween. Thanks for watching Last Bowl In. Go Bulls. And interesting weekend. No football. I'm jonesing already. So I'm kind of not sure what to feel yet. So this Tuesday night game. But get used to them. We've got 3 in a row. Good night, everybody. Have a great night.